Have you ever wondered why you can mindlessly scroll past 100 posts, watching videos and flicking past images without absorbing a single detail, but then suddenly one specific sequence of images completely paralyzes your thumb, forcing you to swipe through to the very end?
Oh, it is a very distinct sensation.
It really is. You are in that glassy-eyed state of the infinite scroll, and then something just hijacks your motor cortex. Well, by the end of this deep dive, we are going to reveal the exact anatomy of that thumb-stopping magic.
Exactly.
We are mastering the art of the Facebook photo carousel, focusing on that perfect 8 to 10 image visual story.
Right, and unpacking the psychological mechanisms that transform your content from something people just ignore into something they're neurologically compelled to interact with.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. A good carousel is, it's like a digital breadcrumb trail. You aren't just showing people pictures, you are leading them on a journey.
Which is why this format matters so much.
Hmm.
I mean, the shift from passive to active consumption is basically the holy grail of digital communication.
For sure.
Because when you look at the underlying data on user behavior, a standard single-image post allows the viewer to just remain a spectator.
They don't have to do anything.
Right. They are operating in what neuroscientists call the default mode network.
Yeah.
It's the brain's autopilot.
Wow, okay.
But a strategically constructed 8 to 10 image carousel, well, it disrupts that autopilot. It forces the viewer to make a micro-commitment with every single swipe. It requires manual action.
Right.
And bridging that gap between visual strategy and narrative flow is really what separates a post that dies in the algorithm from one that, scales exponentially.
I tend to look at this mechanism like a frictionless slide. If you try to explain multiple complex concepts all at once on social media, you are basically throwing sand on that slide.
Oh, absolutely.
The cognitive load spikes, the user feels overwhelmed, and their brain's defense mechanism is to just keep scrolling to find something easier to process. So, the absolute mandatory foundation here is structural restraint. You cannot just start throwing interesting facts onto a canvas.
Restraint is, it's the perfect word for it, because the immediate temptation for anyone creating content is to over-deliver.
Right. You want to show everything you know.
Exactly. You have a lot of knowledge, so you want to pack it all in.
Yeah.
But cognitive load theory dictates that working memory can only handle a very finite amount of novel information at one time.
Makes sense.
So if your carousel attempts to tackle, say, how to fix your car's transmission, while also offering a hack for cheaper car insurance and, a tip for cleaning your dashboard, the brain just recoils.
Too much sand on the slide.
Yes. It categorizes the post as work rather than entertainment or valuable insight. You have to restrict yourself to one singular, highly focused topic.
Just one.
Just one. It could be a specific social issue, a highly targeted daily health tip, or a clear before and after case study. If we connect this to the bigger picture, well, the clearer the topic, the easier it is to hold a viewer's attention.
I see that happen all the time. It's like sitting down at a Michelin star restaurant. They don't take the entire 12-course tasting menu, throw it into a blender, and make you drink it from a single glass.
That sounds terrible.
Right. They pace it. But how do you actually translate that pacing into a visual digital medium? If I have my one topic, let's say it's a breakdown of a complex historical event, how am I pacing those early moments to make sure they don't walk out of the restaurant before the appetizers arrive?
Well, you structure it as a very specific narrative arc. You establish the roadmap immediately after your cover image. The early frames of your carousel, like images 2 and 3, those are the setup.
Okay.
You introduce the friction or the problem.
Right.
If we are talking about a historical event, you don't start with the dates and names. You start with the conflict.
So you make them care right away.
Exactly. You establish the context so the brain understands why it should care. The subsequent images then deliver the useful points or the steps to resolve that conflict.
Right.
It's a calculated progression. You introduce the tension, escalate the context, provide the resolution. The tighter that topic is, the easier it is to maintain that tension in an environment designed to distract.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because mapping the narrative is great in theory, but we run into a massive practical hurdle here.
It is.
How do you actually get someone to stop and look at that very first page? I'll admit, when I am swiping and I see a post where someone has tried to cram an entire novel onto a tiny square graphic, my brain instantly hurts.
Oh, same.
I don't even try to read it. I just want to accelerate past it as fast as humanly possible.
Well, your reaction is purely biological.
Really?
Yeah. When the brain is scanning a feed, it processes images tens of thousands of times faster than text. When it encounters a massive wall of text, it literally perceives it as a threat to its energy reserves.
Wow, a threat. Seriously. Therefore, a non-negotiable rule of this format is that you must keep text short to increase reader engagement.
Keep it short.
Yes. The initial capture, the cover image, or slide 1, and the critical secondary capture around the fourth image are your make-or-break moments. These are your hooks.
Okay, I push back slightly on that, or at least ask for a distinction. Because when we say hook, my mind immediately goes to cheap clickbait. Like,
Right.
you won't believe what happens next.
Right, right.
If I can't write a paragraph to explain the nuance of my topic, and I have to rely on short text, how do I avoid sounding like a tabloid? What does an advanced, high-converting hook actually look like?
That is a crucial distinction. Clickbait leverages deception. A genuine hook, though, leverages a specific value proposition combined with an information gap.
Okay, so it's a promise you actually keep.
Exactly. You rely heavily on visual, weight-bold typography, high-contrast colors, and headlines that trigger a very specific itch the brain wants to scratch.
Got it. Instead of saying, here is a detailed analysis of Facebook algorithm changes, a strong hook says, 5 silent algorithm updates killing your reach.
Ooh. Yeah, I'd click that.
Right. It is short, incredibly readable, and establishes an immediate, tangible value. The reader instantly understands what they will gain by investing their manual effort into swiping.
It operates almost like a billboard on a digital highway. You have like less than half a second as they drive by at 70 miles an hour. You can't give them the whole thesis. You just give them the most compelling symptom of their problem.
Yes, beautifully put.
And you mentioned the fourth image is also a hook. I find that fascinating. Why do we need a secondary hook halfway through the sequence?
Because of dopamine decay.
Dopamine decay.
Yeah, the initial hook gives them a spike of anticipation. They swipe once, maybe twice, and that initial spike begins to level off.
I start getting bored.
By the time they reach the fourth interaction, the brain starts subtly asking, is this still worth my caloric energy? Should I go back to the infinite feed? So you have to re-inject momentum. You introduce a secondary curiosity gap. If the first 3 images explain a problem, the fourth image shouldn't just be a continuation of the same text.
It needs to shift gears.
It should visually and textually pivot. Something like, but here is where the data gets weird. It resets their attention span.
Which brings up the visual mechanics of keeping them on that frictionless slide.
Yeah.
We know we need short text, but how are we handling the design of the middle section?
Good question.
And real quick to our listener, if you want to know the exact formula for that final slide, the one that guarantees a massive spike in your interaction, make sure you keep watching and stick with us to the very end of this deep dive because the data on that is wild.
It really is.
But for the middle section, like slides 5 and 6, how do we prevent the visual quality from degrading?
You lean heavily into what designers call scannability. You maintain short bursts of text punchy headlines, single-sentence explanations, or isolated data points, but you anchor them with icons and supporting visuals.
So you're guiding them.
You are essentially training the user's eye on exactly where to look. More importantly, you enforce absolute visual consistency. The color palette, the typography, the alignment of the text blocks, they cannot deviate across the sequence.
Really? Because my initial instinct would actually be the opposite.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I would think that changing the background color or mixing up the fonts on every slide would keep the viewer on their toes, like it would break the monotony.
It sounds logical, but neurologically, it introduces cognitive friction.
More sand on the slide?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Every time a visual environment drastically changes, the occipital lobe has to reorient itself. It has to figure out, where is the title now? Is this image related to the last one? Or is this an ad that slipped in?
Oh, I hate when ads sneak into Carousel.
Right. And that micro-exhaustion accumulates.
Yeah.
When you maintain a rigid, consistent, professional appearance, the design just fades into the background. The brain feels safe and comfortable, which allows the actual information to take center stage.
That reframes the whole concept of design for me. Good design isn't about being flashy. It's about removing obstacles from the user's path.
Exactly.
All right, let me play devil's advocate here for a moment because we have to address the cynics. Let's look at the deep middle of this format, getting people to swipe 7 or 8 times.
Okay.
A skeptic out there, a real doubting Thomas kind of creator, is definitely thinking people have 0 attention span today. We live in an era where if a video doesn't hook someone in 3 seconds, they are gone. No one is going to do the manual labor of swiping through 8 to 10 images. Why not just distill the whole thing into a single infographic?
That is a very common argument.
So what is the psychological defense for making them work for it?
The defense lies in a phenomenon known as the Zeigarnik effect.
The Zygarnik effect.
Yes. It states that people remember uncompleted or interrupted tasks far better than completed ones.
Mm.
A single, dense infographic gives everything away at once. There's no suspense. There is no journey.
They just glance at it.
The brain glances at it, assumes that it has absorbed the gist, and moves on. But a multi-image sequence leverages the mechanics of gradual reveal.
Ah, keeping the loop open.
When you place explicit, low-friction directives on an image, like a small arrow or text saying, swipe to uncover the mechanism, you aren't demanding their attention, you are rewarding it.
I want to highlight that because the distinction between demanding attention and rewarding it is profound.
It really is.
When I see a 10-minute video of someone just talking to a camera with no pacing, it feels like a demand. But when I'm given one clear, visually pleasing insight, and then implicitly promised another one just to swipe away, that feels like a transaction I want to be part of.
What's fascinating here is that this transactional nature is why curiosity consistently overrides short attention span.
Oh, interesting.
The short attention span is honestly a myth. I mean, people binge watch 10 hours of television in a single weekend.
So true. I did that last week.
Right. What people actually have is a very low tolerance for boredom and confusion. If the viewer feels there is a tangible payoff waiting on the very next slide, a secret, a surprising statistic, a practical tip, they will continue to swipe.
It becomes a chain of micro-commitments.
Yes. By the time they reach the 7th image, the sunk cost fallacy also kicks in. They've invested this much effort, they want to see the conclusion.
But the middle has to actually deliver the goods, right? If I swipe 4 times and realize you are just repeating yourself or using filler content to hit some arbitrary 10-slide quota, I'm abandoning the post entirely.
Absolutely.
And I'm probably never engaging with your content again.
The structural integrity relies on the rule that every single image must trigger emotion or provide distinct value. It must inform, inspire, or surprise.
So don't stretch it.
No. If you only have enough high-quality insight for 6 images, do not stretch it to 10. However, the data strongly supports that 8 to 10 images is the optimal sweet spot for building psychological momentum without overstaying your welcome.
Okay, so we've hooked them with a high-contrast, value-driven cover. We've kept the cognitive friction low by keeping text short and visually consistent. We've rewarded their curiosity slide by slide, building this incredible psychological momentum through the Zeigarnik effect.
Right.
We are finally at the end of the journey. We are looking at images 9 and 10. So what does this all mean for the finale? How do we convert all that accumulated momentum?
The finale is where the fundamental strategy pivots from storytelling to active conversion. You have spent the previous slides building trust and providing value. Now you must capitalize on that investment.
Ask for something.
Exactly. You cannot simply let the sequence end with a summary or a blank fade out. The final image must deploy an advanced, highly specific call to action.
I see creators mess this up constantly. They put in all this work to make a beautiful, insightful sequence, and the last slide just says like and comment.
Oh, yeah.
It feels completely disconnected from the value they just provided. It's high friction because it doesn't give the brain a specific task.
Exactly the problem. Generic prompts yield generic results, or, more often, no results at all. If they have swiped through your entire narrative, they are in a highly primed state.
So what do?
You have to lower the barrier to interaction by asking a highly specific, topically relevant question. You don't ask, what are your thoughts on macroeconomics? That requires way too much cognitive processing to answer in a comment section.
Nobody wants to write an essay.
Right. You ask a low-friction question, something like, which of these 3 budgeting strategies have you tried? Or, would you share this specific health tip with a friend? You are giving them a multiple-choice scenario rather than an essay prompt.
It's the difference between asking someone, how is life, versus asking, what did you think of the cinematography in that movie you saw yesterday?
One gets a vague grunt, the other starts an enthusiastic conversation.
And if your goal is audience growth rather than just comments, you can explicitly direct that momentum toward a follow. Like, swipe back if you miss step 2 and follow this page so you don't miss tomorrow's breakdown. It gives them a clear, actionable path.
The execution of that final prompt drastically alters the algorithmic weight of the entire post. But the strategy doesn't end when the image sequence is designed. The mechanical execution of the upload, well, that's where many creators stumble.
Right.
The platform requires these images to be uploaded in strict sequential order.
Of course, because if you upload out of order, you completely destroy the narrative arc. You're serving the dessert before the appetizer, and the frictionless slide turns into a brick wall.
Exactly.
So you ensure the sequence is perfect, you write a compelling caption that expands slightly on the hook of the first image without giving away the ending, and you publish. But the loop isn't closed there, is it?
Far from it. The final and arguably most critical phase is treating your published content as a continuous data experiment. You must review the performance metrics meticulously.
Look at the numbers.
Over time, the data will reveal patterns. You need to analyze which specific topics, which visual color palettes, and which types of low-friction questions generate the highest retention and interaction rates for your unique audience.
Because the baseline psychology is universal, but the application is highly localized.
Yeah.
What works flawlessly for a highly technical software engineering audience might, completely flop for a lifestyle and wellness audience.
Absolutely.
The analytics are basically your audience talking back to you, telling you exactly where the friction is.
It is a continuous, iterative loop. You create, you observe the drop-off rates, you refine the cognitive load, and you execute again.
Which brings us perfectly back to the open loop we started with today.
Yeah.
We opened by questioning that magical thumb-paralyzing power you feel when you are abruptly pulled out of a mindless scroll. And now we have the anatomy of the magic trick.
We do?
It isn't an accident. It isn't random algorithm luck. That feeling of being compelled to swipe is the careful, calculated application of cognitive psychology. It is visual consistency lowering the brain's defense mechanisms. It is gradual curiosity leveraging the Zeigarnik effect. It is a perfectly paced 8 to 10 image narrative that respects the user's energy and rewards their attention with relentless value.
It transforms the digital landscape from a shouting match into a structured, engaging conversation.
It really does. Thanks to everyone for your time today, and a special thank you for requesting that we revisit King's Academy for more knowledge. We love breaking down these frameworks and digging into the mechanics of why things actually work.
It's been great.
Please let us know your opinion on this visual storytelling strategy in the comments section. Are you going to adapt the 8 to 10 image format, or do you still feel the single image post reigns supreme? And as always, we read all posted comments and reply as soon as possible.
Before you go, I want to leave you with one final thought to analyze the next time you dive into your own metrics.
Oh, let's hear it.
If you start tracking your carousel data and notice that viewers consistently drop off at slide 5, what does that reveal about the pacing of your narrative? Are you giving away the ultimate payoff too soon? Or are you simply forgetting to provide that secondary hook to sustain their curiosity?